as a jury president, you're actually overseeing two different disciplines,
Correct.
right? What are those again?
Creative use of data and creative use of technology.
So what does that mean for you at the highest kind of like altitude, and like what are you looking for here?
I don't want to be a diva here, but I do think these are the two of the most important rooms to be in right now. Creative use of data and creative use of technology. It was really the future of our industry. I think you'd have to be in a hole not to understand how quickly our industry is adapting. So for me, I think looking at this category and understanding what and how we're applying it to human issues or objectives or brand issues and objectives is incredibly important. I think it's all about how can we future-proof our industry? How can we show people at home when they're looking at the work we select the way forward? You know, I think data and technology are incredible tools, but they are tools. So how are people applying them and using them? So I think, you know, in 2025, I don't think there's a more important jury and a more important body of work that we need to assess and look at and pry out what makes the best of it work.
They're definitely the two most important ones, except for the one that I'm overseeing.
No, I agree. I mean, as you know, how do you see that in 2025? What makes that important, and how do you, what role does that play in today's world?
Look, I think as someone who left the wonders of the agency world over 12 years ago and went to a very tiny tech startup that no one really knew of, that was a little bit like wet clay and malleable, and needed to build a brand. I'm very proud to be here as a jury president and to kind of see a little bit of this movement kind of shifting over to the brand side. So I think that's kind of what I set out to tell the jury, is that we're not here to just be the second-class citizen and award work that feels right for our discipline and our category. We're trying to award the best work, full stop. For the show. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're setting out to do. What are some of the trends you've seen in your juries that are kind of on the positive kind of like lens, and then maybe from a not so positive lens?
I would be remiss not to talk about AI. It's everywhere. There's a ton of work around AI. But again, I think the best work is using AI in a human way and solving something in kind of a story, using AI as storytelling versus AI for AI's sake. And I think the worst of that work just does that. It's just AI without a real purpose or a real objective, and it removes the human from the story. And I think the best work is in service of a human objective.
And have you seen like good uses of it? And
there's some great uses of AI, absolutely. I think the ones I prefer the ones that delight me and make me laugh, just kind of to show that, AI can be obviously very serious, but it can also be playful, and you can hack it in fun ways to show kind of the limits of it, or even the shortcomings of AI, I think is a really interesting thing to show. So using it in ways that aren't so linear, I think are by far the more interesting examples. Yeah. How about you? Any trends on the brand side?
I think when you're looking at work and there's just a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of hand-wavy case study videos where you're not really too sure what sometimes it's a little bit like pulling the wool over the eyes on like not actually having a clear and concise idea, right? And if there's like too many moving parts and you kind of like walk away from it not really understanding what the idea was, or like if you can't actually summarize it in a sentence, it probably means it's a little bit of a tell that you don't really have anything that's
I always say
clear.
That if I'm 50 seconds into a case study and I still don't know what the idea is, there's a real problem with the idea itself.
That's a great tip right here for future agencies.
Please clarify your idea before the 30-second mark.
That's a pro tip.
Case study.
That's a pro tip that I concur and I agree with. Is there anything from both of your disciplines that you've seen that's been a standout piece of work so far?
Yeah, and I'm going to caveat also a bit. I mean, I'm really looking for work that gets back to building brands and building businesses. And the one that stood out for me, it's super simple. It's an IKEA idea. And, IKEA really suffers with the problem of being thought of as disposable furniture. It's not going to last, right? It's IKEA, it's for now, it's not forever. So what this idea did is really remind people of the IKEA stuff they have at home that's probably stood the test of time, and to kind of beat that perception. And it was so simple, such a simple data idea. And all they did was, you could take a picture of, there's a code, there's a sticker, which I've seen and never realized what the hell that sticker was. But there's a data code on that sticker that actually dates exactly when that piece of furniture was made. So it was a little piece of technology. You could scan that sticker and it would tell you how old that piece was.
Wow.
So simple.
Yeah.
But immediately, I know that if I did something like that, I'd be like, oh my God, I've had this piece for 10 years. And it would really beat that perception I have of disposable furniture right in the moment in a very personal way. So I really love that idea, and it really solves a business problem in a beautiful way, just using a simple piece of data they own that no one was aware of.
For me, I need to feel an extreme amount of envy.
It's a good way to put it.
I'm a competitive person, so I need to be have this friendly competitive fire that kind of gets the blood boiling a little bit. And I think there was one standout one, at least in day one, that I feel is really something that a brand side agency can do better. It's something that feels a little bit more native to an idea that can react in real time and be very timely in pop culture. And I think it's the Heinz mustard campaign, where I'm always trying to find something that can really poke at pop culture. And I think even at Squarespace, we need to do a better job at this, right? And this was, if you're a fan of hip hop, the beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, to be able to piggyback off of this, to make a condiment of mustard a first-class citizen against ketchup, to be able to then, in a timely way, buy media, come up with creative right after Kendrick's Super Bowl halftime show, also right after he won 5 Grammys, again with DJ Mustard, who was a critical part of that duo in making this track, and just being able to plan, conceive, buy the media, air it, execute it flawlessly. It's not something that has super big production value, but it's just so simple and clean, and it really they bought digital out of home everywhere. It was just it all came together to create this pop culture moment that I think kind of just broke the internet. Mm-hmm. And it's something that it's the one piece of work where I was I wish I came up with that idea. I wish I put that out into the world. So nice. That's the one that stood out for me so far. What are some of the organic conversations you're having with the jury, whether you're on lunch with them or sidebar conversations? Do you think there's consensus here? Do you think that the jury's aligned with with what the caliber of work is and what should be awarded?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're all aligned. It's a really great jury. I love the different perspectives. We have people from, platforms. We have tech people. We also have agency people and in-house people. So it's a really great conversation coming from different perspectives. I think most of our conversations, to be honest, are going to be had around what the definition of use of data is in certain categories, or the use of technology. And, in talking to PJ Pereira, who's a One Show board member, I think he kind of gave me a really good watch out, which is when you define something too tightly, you're in danger of missing brilliance. And I think the conversation is really going to be, what is use of data? Data is really anything right now. And I think people sometimes default to data being numbers. But data can be a name. It can be words, it can be numbers, it can be colors, it can be anything. That input of data can be anything, and I think keeping people open-minded about what that means and in what capacity. It doesn't mean ingesting data. It can also be creating a resource to bring data in to an idea.
Absolutely.
So I think is going to be the biggest discussion. What is data? What defines data? And I think making sure we're not too rigid about what that is. Because at the end of the day, we want to create a larger sandbox for the industry to think 100%. About data differently, to think about technology differently. What kind of interesting discussions are you and the jury having kind of off-duty, off hours?
So that's a good question. I think, look, the discipline's still relatively new. I'm someone who's made that leap 12 years ago, so it's not new to me. But I think for a lot of the people on the jury, that this is we've had people who've been on the brand side for years, and I think there's been some people who've just made that leap, not that long ago. So I think defining what creative excellence looks like in this category is still there's still a lot of white space there. So I think when we get to discussions on the third day, it's going to be really interesting to see what work stands out. Is the jury aligned? We haven't gotten to that point yet. I think in some of the off-the-cuff conversations, I think we've seen some alignment. I think in others, maybe there's been a little bit of unalignment on things, but I think that's the beautiful part of this, right? Is that the reason we have this jury from all over the world, which I really appreciate too, right? It's not just from the U.S. It's like we have people from everywhere. You get different perspectives, you get different insights you get different reads on what is a good idea. So I think we're gonna figure it out, and it should be an interesting third day.
My favorite part about being on a jury is when someone teaches me something I didn't know. It's an incredible moment to go, oh, I still have the capacity to learn. I've done this a long time, but there's always a new perspective I didn't see.
I get humbled every single day.
Yeah, every moment. It's like, that person is way smarter than I am.
We've both been in this industry for a very long time.
Yeah.
And like, what does the One Club, kind of mean for you?
I mean, for me, it means an organization that gives back, that is actually helping us build the future of our industry, not only through this award show and really, benchmarking the best work in the world, but also in teaching the future of our industry, making them better. And I think that's incredibly important. I think it's a lot of shows are about the award show, but I think the one show is about the entire industry in its totality and ensuring it's healthy across the board. And I think that's why it matters so much to me.
Completely agree. I think for me, I remember very vividly when I won my first one show pencil, and it kind of put like a flag in the ground. It was like a stretch goal for me as like this kid from Montreal trying to work on big work that got awarded. I would look at all the different entries and the books. So it did help me set off my career, right? Absolutely. It helped me find my next job, and I think to your point, I think the beauty of where we sit right now is that we get a lot more value, like paying it forward, like for the next generation, and to curate a body of work that really sets the tone of like where we are in 2025 and beyond. It gives me a lot more joy than as part of my job. And like I've said this before, but I actually hand on heart believe that creativity is the only job left.
I agree.
In the world, right? I believe creativity, critical thought, being able to critique in a civil way, like we're doing right now here in the Dominican Republic. These are going to be the core skills of any white-collar worker in the future. And creativity will be everyone's job, not just for us as a creative department. And I also feel human craft will actually be the new luxury in the future. And this is what I say to, I'm on the board of my alma mater at the Rhode Island School of Design, and I actually believe that a creative education, like at RISD, like at the One Club, and might actually be the model of what higher education looks like, full stop. So that for me has given me new life as part of like my role, not only at Squarespace and at my alma mater, but being able to pay it forward for the next generation at a place like the One Club, who is trying to change the perception of what this industry is. Doing things like the One School that we support is a beautiful thing. So
it's funny, my vision of the future is that every brand in the world has a CCO, Chief Creative Officer, sitting next to the CEO. I think that would change the world.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think I lucked out in that regard that, the founder and CEO of Squarespace, we've been dragging this thing through the mud for 12 years, and I consider him one of my closest friends and someone who's an advocate for creativity and how it can change our brand and our business. So I would love to see more of that in the future.
I agree.